And particularly in perspective of our family history. We all share the same family history, and some people have married into it, but we're all here. And Mom, your mother, Mary Garcia, was born in 1894. 1894. That's a long time ago. And at the age of 18, Mary Garcia traveled third class from Palermo, Italy to Ellis Island, arriving in 1912, just about exactly 101 years ago. 101 years ago, your mom arrived here, Mother. And she then, let's see, she met your father and married.
Come on, need some help?
In 1917, your grandmother, your mother and father married.
January 1917.
January 9th, thank you, Mom, 1917. Good memory. And just about that same year, your brother Andrew was born, about 9 months later.
Oh my goodness.
And you were born a year after that, in 1918. That's my mother is 95 years old.
Yay!
After Andrew and my mother, your sister Sarah was born in 1922, Mom. 23?
Yeah.
All right. Mary was born in 1925. Your sister Julia in 1928. And Paul in 1930. So, just give you an overview of all of our aunts and uncles of my generation, when they arrived in this world. Mom, you were a child during the relative prosperity of the 1920s, and you grew up in an immigrant family in your early childhood. But as a teenager, you went through the hardships and deprivation of the Great Depression, the 1930s, when the Gaeta family really struggled. And I don't know if some of you have heard some of the stories of the deprivations and difficulties they had. But my mother was a teenager through that whole period of the 1930s. As a young adult mother, as a young adult, when the country was mobilized to fight the war, World War II, you could have been a role model for Rosie the Riveter. My mother worked, as many people did, in a war factory right here in Buffalo, New York. The Houdaille factory, where was it, Mom?
Delaware.
On Delaware Avenue, right? This was all through the war. My mother was a factory worker working on building parts for American aircraft and bombers in World War II. But also, she was a shop steward for the Machinists Union. Women had taken over all the jobs of the men that had gone off to war and had replaced men in these factories. And my mother got involved in the union movement, was a shop steward, defending the rights of her fellow workers, who were mostly women. Is that right, Mother? Okay. That also is where, through the union movement, that she met my father, William Kitt. And they married in 1944 and actually moved to Manhattan. Got out of Buffalo, right, Mother?
What?
You got out of Buffalo.
Yeah.
For a while.
I wonder why.
In 1948, my twin brother and myself were born. And so we were born in Manhattan, and then shortly after that, my parents moved back to Buffalo. But about 11 years later, we moved to San Diego. And my mother has lived in San Diego, and well, Manhattan first, then San Diego, then San Francisco, and then back in the Buffalo area. And
Doug, hurry up, my hand's getting tired.
yeah, get out! My mother also has had a great love of travel. She has really enjoyed traveling, and she has been to Europe a number of times. She has been to Mexico, Hawaii, of course, Canada, some extensive trips in Canada, and also across the U.S. many times, and traveled extensively in the U.S. too. Lost my place here. Too much wine. Okay.
It's good one.
Where is it?
Abe Lincoln.
You know, I'm missing a card.
Oh, there. Talk about your mother's artistic abilities.
This time.
Yes.
Yeah.
She enjoys. She has.
You don't
for
need
years
those
she enjoyed
cards anyway.
Painting and drawing, and many of you might have some of
We
her
have
artwork.
some. We
All
have some
right.
of the Winnie the
I
Pooh.
have
The Winnie the
some.
Pooh series we have.
I have some. I have a postcard she made for
I
me.
don't have any, Doug, no.
You don't have any. Well, we'll have to get you something. There?
On the top. No?
Oh, there. Oh, there it is.
Oh,
This
no.
page.
Skip it.
All right.
You can skip it.
Bob, Mother,
Just because you're on stage, you're
I
not going to
have
cut you
always
any slack.
appreciated how well read and how well informed you are, because you certainly are. I have always appreciated that when we could have a conversation about current events and politics. And while I knew that you would always have an opinion, I knew that would be well-reasoned and backed up by logic. My mother's opinions were not just off the cuff. Isn't that right, Mother?
You got to defend her.
I have always appreciated, Mom, that you can tell great stories and recount family history with humor and insight. And maybe some of you have heard my mother's stories of some of her brothers and sisters and parents. You know, they're a hoot. Mom, I have always appreciated your honesty and integrity and your fairness towards all people. One of your shining traits. It has been an honor to be your son, and I love you very much, Mom.
Yay. You're a good son.
Now, Karen has done a wonderful slideshow, and it doesn't take that long, so you won't have time to be very
I
bored.
think it's only more than an hour and a half.
Oh, okay,
It's
good.
not that bad.
More wine.
I too am happy to be Clara's. I'm her favorite daughter-in-law.
I thought I was.
The only one, though.
But that's not the reason. I'd like to say one thing about Clara that I think is so wonderful, and that's that when I got married to Doug, she goes, you know, I'm a good cook. And I go, yeah, I know. She goes, I'm a really good cook. And she said, but I want you to have a marriage. She said, I don't want you to, she said, try to just make everything I make and try to be the cook that I am and be stuck in the kitchen. She said, I want you to actually have a marriage to my son and enjoy being married to him, which I do. And I thought that was a very gracious thing to say. Another thing she said, I have two quick things to say about her. When Clara turned 75, we were talking about, do you need anything for shopping? Do you, and you know, anything we can get for you? You know, shoes or this or that. And she goes, shoes? She goes, I'm 75 years old. I'm never going to need any more shoes.
And you held her to it.
The way she loves to walk, she wore out many more after that. The last thing I'd like to say is about the family. And it's a story about Doug, actually. He gets up before me, but one day I got up just a couple weeks ago before him. And I was wandering around, my feet got cold, I was out in the kitchen, and I was freezing to death. And he said, well, honey, he said, he finally got up. He said, why don't you go hop in my warm spot, you know, and warm up and get a few more winks. And it felt so good. And I liken that to being part of this family. I can't tell you how happy I am to be part of this, all your wonderful people. I love you so much. And it's like coming into the warm spot. When I come to Buffalo, when I'm with all of you, it's just, I know it's kind of a weird analogy, but I really, really love you all.
It's better than
Thank you for
cold beer.
welcoming me so much. But it's about Clara. This is all about
Yay!
Clara. Yay!